You're just being dramatic again, my dad said, barely looking up from his phone as I clutched my stomach in agony. Amanda would never do something like that. My name is Sophie, and at 16 I was learning the hard way that having proof doesn't matter when nobody wants to see it. The burning in my throat had started minutes after I drank the smoothie Amanda, my stepsister, had so kindly made for me. But Dad, something's wrong, I gasped, doubling over at the kitchen counter. It tastes like chemicals. Oh please, Amanda cut in, her perfect ponytail swinging as she rolled her eyes. I made it with the same ingredients I always use. You're just trying to get attention as usual. The burning was spreading now, moving from my throat to my chest. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. Amanda watched me with an expression I'd seen too many times before, a mixture of satisfaction and carefully crafted concern. Ever since my dad married her mom Lisa 3 years ago, Amanda had been the perfect daughter. Straight A's, cheerleading captain, volunteer at the local animal shelter. Nobody saw what happened when the adults weren't looking. Nobody wanted to believe that their golden girl could have a darker side. Dad, I tried again, my voice barely a whisper. Please, Sophie, enough, Lisa snapped, walking into the kitchen. Amanda was kind enough to make you a healthy breakfast, and this is how you thank her? By accusing her of, what? Poisoning you. The room spun. I grabbed the smoothie cup with trembling hands, but Lisa snatched it away. I'll throw this out since you're being so ungrateful, she said, dumping the contents into the sink before I could stop her. There went my evidence. I stumbled toward the front door, desperate for help. My mom would have believed me, would have rushed me to the hospital without hesitation. But she died 4 years ago, leaving me with a dad who seemed to forget I existed once he found his new family. Through the front window I spotted Mrs. Martinez, our elderly neighbor, watering her roses. She'd been our neighbor for years, a retired ER nurse who often watched me after school before Mom died. Where do you think you're going? Lisa demanded as I lurched toward the door. Probably to make up more stories to the neighbors, Amanda added sweetly. You know how she likes to exaggerate, Mom. I made it to the front yard before my legs gave out. The last thing I heard was Mrs. Martinez shouting my name, her watering can clattering to the ground as she ran toward me. I woke to the steady beep of hospital monitors and Mrs. Martinez's concerned face. There you are, sweetheart, she said softly, squeezing my hand. You gave us quite a scare. The smoothie, I croaked, my throat feeling like I'd swallowed glass. Amanda. I know. Mrs. Martinez's expression hardened. I saw her making it this morning through my kitchen window. Saw her adding something from a bottle she pulled from her pocket. I was about to come over and warn you, but you drank it so fast. Tears slid down my cheeks. Finally, someone had seen it. Someone believed me. We've already run toxicology tests, a doctor said, stepping into the room. The results are concerning. You had a significant amount of cleaning fluid in your system. If Mrs. Martinez hadn't gotten you here so quickly. He was interrupted by my dad bursting into the room, Lisa and Amanda right behind him. Sophie, baby, are you okay? His voice shook. They're saying you were poisoned. Oh, that's ridiculous, Lisa cut in smoothly. It was probably just food poisoning. Right, Amanda? But Amanda's perfect mask had finally cracked. She stood frozen in the doorway, staring at Mrs. Martinez with undisguised fear. Actually, Mrs. Martinez said, her voice still wrapped in silk, I have video footage from my security camera showing exactly what Amanda put in that smoothie. Would you like to see it, or should I show the police first? The color drained from Amanda's face. Lisa started sputtering excuses. My dad just stood there looking lost, finally forced to see what had been happening under his own roof. The hospital room became a battleground of denials and accusations. Lisa was in full damage control mode, her perfectly manicured hands gesturing wildly as she tried to explain away the inexplicable. It must have been an accident, she insisted. Amanda would never intentionally. I have 3 months of footage, Mrs. Martinez interrupted calmly, holding up her phone. 3 months of Amanda adding things to Sophie's food when no one was watching. I started recording after I noticed Sophie getting mysteriously ill every few weeks. My dad collapsed into the chair beside my bed, his face ashen. 3 months. He whispered. But why didn't you say something sooner? Mrs. Martinez's eyes flashed. I tried. Remember when I came over to discuss Sophie's frequent stomach aches? You said she was just stressed about school. When I suggested taking her to a doctor, Lisa here said I was overstepping. I remembered that day, how Lisa had practically shoved Mrs. Martinez out the door, then lectured me about not sharing family problems with neighbors. Amanda hadn't moved from the doorway. Her usual confidence was shattered. I just wanted what? The new voice belonged to Detective Sarah Mills, who stepped into the room with quiet authority. To hurt your stepsister? To see how much you could get away with. The next hour blurred into police statements and more medical tests. The toxicology report revealed not just today's cleaning fluid, but traces of other substances from previous incidents. Small amounts of bleach, soap, even plant fertilizer. We'll need to take Amanda down to the station, Detective Mills said. As she's a minor, you or her mother will need to accompany her. This is absurd. Lisa snapped. We're not going anywhere until we speak to our lawyer. Amanda is a straight-A student, a model citizen. A model citizen who nearly killed her stepsister, Mrs. Martinez cut in coldly. The camera caught her smiling, Lisa. Smiling while she poured chemicals into that smoothie. Amanda's mask finally crumbled completely. Tears streaked her makeup as she looked at her mother. You said nobody would believe her, she sobbed. You said Sophie was just like her mom, always making up stories for attention. The room went silent. All eyes turned to Lisa, who had gone very still. Amanda, she said sharply, be quiet. But Amanda was beyond control now. Years of carefully constructed perfection were shattering. You told me to put her in her place. Said we had to show her she couldn't compete with us. That if she got sick enough, maybe she'd go live with her aunt and stop ruining our perfect family. My dad made it sound like he'd been punched. Lisa, you knew? Lisa's face contorted. She was ruining everything. Always moping about her dead mother, making you feel guilty, taking up space in our home. Amanda was supposed to just scare her a little, not? Detective Mills stepped forward. Mrs. Peterson, I'm going to need you to come with me as well. As they led Amanda and Lisa away, I caught a glimpse of my stepsister's face. For the first time I saw her clearly, not the perfect daughter she pretended to be, but a girl so desperate for her mother's approval that she'd do anything. Even poison her stepsister. My dad stayed behind, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Sophie, he started, his voice breaking. I don't know how to. Don't, I said, turning away from him. Just, don't. Mrs. Martinez, who hadn't left my side, spoke up. I think Sophie needs rest now. And you, Mr. Peterson, need to do some serious thinking about how you let things get this far. As my dad shuffled out, Detective Mills returned with news that would change everything. We're going to need to search your house, she told him. Based on Amanda's statement, there may be evidence of previous attempts. I closed my eyes, exhausted but oddly peaceful. The truth was finally out, though I knew this was only the beginning of a much longer story. Mrs. Martinez adjusted my blanket, her presence more comforting than my own family had been in years. Get some sleep, sweetheart, she said softly. Tomorrow's going to be a new day. He was right. Tomorrow would be different. The perfect facade of our blended family had cracked wide open, revealing the poison that had been lurking beneath the surface all along. 3 weeks after the incident, I sat in Mrs. Martinez's sunlit kitchen, watching her prepare breakfast. Real breakfast, not the so-called healthy smoothies that had landed me in the hospital. The changes in my life since that day still felt surreal. Amanda and Lisa were facing serious charges. My stepsister had been placed in a juvenile detention center with mandatory psychological counseling, while Lisa was out on bail, staying with relatives in another state. The investigation had revealed a disturbing pattern of manipulation and abuse. Lisa as the orchestrator, Amanda as her willing accomplice. Your pancakes are getting cold, Mrs. Martinez said gently, pulling me from my thoughts. Since my release from the hospital, I'd been staying with her while my dad tried to figure out how to be a father again. Thanks for everything, I said, meaning far more than just breakfast. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been watching out for me. She sat down across from me, her kind eyes serious. You know, your mother and I were good friends. She made me promise to keep an eye on you if anything ever happened to her. I just wish I'd done more sooner. A knock at the door interrupted us. It was my dad, looking uncomfortable in a way that had become familiar over the past few weeks. He'd been coming by every morning trying to rebuild what his negligence had broken. "Ready for school?" he asked, hovering in the doorway. He wasn't allowed to have me stay at our house yet, not until the investigation was complete and authorities were sure it was safe. "Almost," I replied, finishing my pancakes. The awkwardness between us was still heavy, but it was different now. He was trying, really trying. For the first time since Mom died. The school things had changed too. The story had gotten out. Of course it had. In a small town, nothing like this stayed quiet. Amanda's friends who used to join in her subtle bullying now avoided eye contact in the hallways. Teachers who had praised her perfectionism while ignoring my struggles were suddenly extra attentive. "Sophie," my dad said as we pulled up to the school, "I have something to tell you. I've been talking with your Aunt Sarah, your mom's sister." My heart skipped. Aunt Sarah had distanced herself after Dad married Lisa, who made it clear she didn't want my mom's family interfering with our new life. "She's moving back to town," he continued, "and I think maybe you should live with her for a while. Not because I don't want you," he added quickly, seeing my expression, "but because I need to work on myself, on being the father you deserve. Until then, you need someone who can give you the stability I failed to provide." Tears pricked my eyes, but they weren't entirely sad. For the first time since Mom died, Dad was putting my needs before his own desires. "Mrs. Martinez can still be part of your life, of course," he added. "She's proven to be more family to you than—" He trailed off, the weight of his failures heavy in the air. After school, I found Mrs. Martinez waiting in her garden. She smiled as I approached, but I could tell she already knew. "Your father called," she confirmed. "I think it's a good decision. Sarah was always more like your mother. Strong, protective, unwilling to look the other way when something's wrong." I hugged her impulsively. "You're not getting rid of me that easily. I'll still come over for pancakes." "You'd better," she laughed, then turned serious. Watching you these past weeks, seeing how you've handled everything, you're so much like your mother. She would be proud of you." That weekend, Aunt Sarah arrived with a moving truck and a determination to set things right. As we unpacked my things in her guest room, soon to be my room, she told me stories about Mom, stories Lisa had tried to make me forget. Dad came by to help, working alongside Aunt Sarah with an awkward but genuine effort to make amends. They even managed to share a laugh over an old photo they found of Mom, both acknowledging the void her loss had created and the different ways they had tried to fill it. Mrs. Martinez brought over a housewarming dinner, and as we all sat around Sarah's dining table, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. The warmth of being surrounded by people who truly cared about my well-being. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would still be court dates, therapy sessions, and moments of reliving the trauma of what Amanda and Lisa had done. But for the first time since Mom died, I wasn't facing it alone. "To new beginnings," Aunt Sarah proposed, raising her glass. "And to keeping our eyes open," Mrs. Martinez added meaningfully. "To family," Dad said quietly, "and doing better." I looked around at these three adults, each playing a different but vital role in my recovery and my future. This wasn't the family I was born into, or even the one Dad had tried to force with Lisa and Amanda. This was something better. A family built on truth, protection, and genuine love. "To real family," I echoed and meant it with all my heart.